Hey, author bosses. How's everybody doing today? I am in the group on a Wednesday. Don't worry, I'll still be here tomorrow for my regular live. But I asked you guys a question this morning and I got some really cool answers, so I wanted to talk about them. I asked you what you love in a first chapter and what makes you keep reading. So some people said action. I like being dropped into the middle of the action. I love it when things are just going. Some people said mystery. Ooh, I want to know what's going on. A first chapter that has some mystery will make me keep reading. Some people said emotion. They want a first chapter that really helps them feel. They want to get right in and start with the feels. Hey, Anne, so good to see you. And some people said a hook or some kind of suspense. And those can be, like at the same time, or they can be different parts of the chapter. Maybe the chapter starts with a hook and at the end it leaves you with suspense. I thought these were some really cool answers. And, this is an opportunity for us as authors to pause and think about what it's like to be as readers, how it is to be a reader. What am I looking for in a book? And it gives you these insights into what you can include in your books because the reader experience. Ooh, Anne says escalation. Yeah, I love that. It's part of building the tension and the drama, right? So as a reader, the things that grab you, and your first chapter is so important. It's where readers are deciding to stay. In some cases, it's where they're deciding if they're even going to buy your book if they're reading the preview. So what's interesting about all these things, action, mystery, emotion, hook, suspense, and even escalation, is that they can all be achieved with one key ingredient in your opening chapter. And if you guys watched my live last week, you won't be surprised to hear me say it, but it's connecting with your main character, right? Because you can have all the action that, you can have like all this great action and explosions, but if we don't have somebody to follow, if we don't have a protagonist who emerges in that action, it's too chaotic and we don't care. You can have a lot of mystery, but again, if we don't have like a guide, somebody we're following through, we're not engaged enough in the story. For those of you who said emotion is what keeps you reading, obviously there's a character there that you're starting to feel connected to, and that's where the emotion comes in. And even with a hook or a surprise, and tomorrow I'm going to be talking about how to end your first chapter, but even with a hook or a surprise, if we're not connected to a main character, then we don't have a draw. Wayne says the first two paragraphs matter the most. Yeah, that whole first chapter is so key, and the first part of the first chapter, but also the end part. I think the whole first chapter is so, so key. So we have this instinct as authors. We know what we like to read, but the question is, how do you get all of that? Action, mystery, emotion, hook, suspense, escalation, and us connecting to your main character all in that first chapter, right? Your first chapter has a lot of weight resting on its shoulders. That's why we take a whole approach to it that's first chapter like a boss. You've heard Ella and I say this before. We turn first chapter into a verb because your first chapter is that important. We want you guys to first chapter like bosses. So if you're working on a story, maybe it's a completed draft and you're worried about your first chapter, or you're most of the way through a draft and you're going to go back and revise and you're like, does my first chapter really stand up? You want to have the approach of first chaptering like a boss and going through step by step and seeing, do I have all of the pieces in place that would give my reader the action, the mystery, the emotion, the hook, the suspense, the connection to the main character. So I don't recommend you just hope cross your fingers and hope. I don't recommend you go at it randomly and chaotically. If you want to first chapter like a boss, you really need to be systematic about it. So if you're interested in first chaptering like a boss, what you should do is join us for Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, because not only will you learn how to first chapter like a boss, you'll also learn to do all the other components of launching like a boss, including having a great climax. Once you've given us that exciting first chapter, you can give us an exciting climax that makes your readers really bond with the story and with your characters, your newsletter, your launch team, all the pieces of your launch. If that sounds right up your alley, if you've got a draft and you're getting ready to publish and you're like, launching like a boss, including first chaptering like a boss, would really improve my book sales and help me get get my story out to more people, join us for Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp. We are kicking it off at the end of May, and you can get all the info about it, including some special bonuses that are happening on opening day, on the first day that Bootcamp goes on sale. If you go over to authorlikeaboss.com/book launch, I just forgot the I just forgot the URL. Authorlikeaboss.com/ let's see, book launch. Okay, there we go. Guys, it's wrong. I'm going to change it in the comments. /book launch. Okay. And come find out not only what it takes to get this great first chapter, but what you need to be putting in place to get your story the way it needs to be to grab readers, to launch your book, to get it in front of people. Because of course, having a great story is only half of it. If you don't get your book in front of people, nobody will have the chance to experience your great story. So we're going to be doing a live webinar on the day that bootcamp enrollment opens, and you can join us for that. You can learn our 8-step launch plan and see what's involved. But I really want to put this idea in your mind. As you're sitting there working on your great story and thinking about how can I write this first chapter that will really grab readers? How can I give them the experience I know I love as a reader? And you're putting all that effort and you're putting all that energy and you're putting all that love into your story. What's your plan for getting that story in front of people? Right? Just sit with that for a minute. I'm working so hard on this really great story. I'm making sure my first chapter is totally dialed in. I'm first chaptering like a boss. And then what's my bigger plan for getting that great story with its great first chapter in front of people? All right, so go on over to authorlikeaboss.com/book launch, and that's where you can register for the live webinar we're doing. And we're going to go through that 8-step launch plan and talk more about what you can do to get your book in front of people so that you're not only writing great stories, you're also making great money from those stories. All right, I will be back in the group at my regular time tomorrow. I'll catch you guys live then. And for now, I hope you have a wonderful evening. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.